Smooth 98.1, Lagos, Nigeria world. Here we are, gone past 6:30 for a hump of the week. Wednesday, this is Business Express on Smooth Breakfast. I'm Sope Martins, and I've got Kelvin Emmanuel joining me for the next 15 minutes. Good morning, Kelvin. How you doing?
Good morning. Good morning, Sope. I'm fine, thank you. Thanks for having me.
All right, great to have you back on the show. Okay, so Kelvin, we've got stuff to talk about, right? A lot
Yes.
happening. But before we get into this 15 minutes of business stories, we are going to ask you to join the conversation. We're already streaming live up on youtube.com/smooth981 FM Lagos. Good morning, YouTube. And you can join the conversation by leaving your comments up on the live chat. You can also send WhatsApp messages in to 0809 440 or take it to Twitter and use the hashtag BusinessExpress981. All right, so Kelvin, the first thing that we're going to talk about, let's talk about the presidential town hall that went on. First of all, the first thing I'll ask is, how important were those economic messages from the candidates at the recent town hall?
The town hall debates were very important. It's just unfortunate that all the parties didn't bring their first nine. That's the way I'll put it. Some of them brought their proxies because you can always almost tell how a government is going to perform by how much they're able to articulate their plans, solutions to problems. Nigeria has a lot of problems right now facing it, even more than it had in 2015. So you can almost always tell what's the solution to the exchange rate problem, what's the solution to the security problem, what's the solution to the problem of ASU, because ASU just had a neck and they are considering going on strike, but they are waiting again to be exhausted. There are so many problems in Nigeria. So if the candidates are not able to articulate, Nigeria is in a recession right now. So if the candidates are not able to tell you how they are going to navigate the country out of this mess we're in, given the current realities, then they're not going to hit the ground running. President Buhari took 6 months to appoint a cabinet because he didn't have a plan. He didn't have a list. You can see the number of prime ministers the UK has changed in the last couple of months. The very day they assume office, they won. They already have a list of the people and they're already appointing ministers into cabinet position. So if your candidate is not able to say what he's going to do practically and navigate Nigeria, specific solutions to problems, right? There's nothing they're going to do when they assume office in 2022, in 2023. There's nothing, there's no magic.
Okay, but Kelvin, fine. There was quite a lot of debate about who went or who turned up and who didn't turn up and who sent, their proxies. But of the information that we did manage to get, okay, what would you say, what was your takeaway from the economic blueprints that were then laid out by the candidates? Because you said information is what we need, right? What kind of information did we get and what was your opinion of it?
Well, to be honest with you, I think the one that was that caused some stir and debate was the issue of saving and borrowing. I'm quite surprised that for PDP that was in power for 16 years, that the vice presidential candidate was arguing against a savings culture. For PDP that set up the Sovereign Wealth Fund, for PDP that had so many market reforms that privatized some assets, that brought Nigeria telecommunications, that ushered in the era of internet, that ushered in the era of modern banking in Nigeria in terms of recapitalization when Soludo was governor of the central bank. All those reforms. I'm surprised the vice presidential candidate is saying that the Labour Party candidate saying he's saving so much money when he was governor of Anambra State. As a matter of fact, the Labour Party candidate is the only candidate in Nigeria that has left so much surplus as governor leaving office in Nigeria. No other governor has done it. All the governors, past and present, except Peter Obi, always leave the states in debt. I'm surprised he's saying that savings is not a good thing. I'm surprised he's saying that, we have to borrow to invest and then drive growth. You have to borrow to invest to drive growth. But today, as we speak, Yeah. Out of every 100 kobo of revenue, Nigeria is paying 119 kobo in servicing debts. As we speak today, the last time we were talking about this, I said every Nigerian today is owing 230,000 naira to borrowers, to creditors. But if Nigeria generates 18,000 naira in revenue, for every 230,000 naira in debt, it's owing to creditors as we speak today. So I'm surprised that there is a debate on the issue of savings over borrowing to drive growth. How can you say that borrowing to drive growth is better than savings to drive growth? If Nigeria had a sovereign wealth fund, if in 2011, the Amechi-led Nigerian Governors Forum, when he was chairman, and allowed Okonjo-Iweala and Olusegun Aganga to collapse the excess crude accounts into the sovereign wealth fund. Today, we'll have about $25 to $30 billion in the sovereign wealth fund, and we will not be borrowing the way we're borrowing. But today, what do we have? We have less than $3 billion US dollars. In 10 years, that sovereign wealth fund has been in establishment.
But hold on, Kelvin, can we afford to save right now in the situation that we're in, where the coins are rattling around in the can?
Right now, we can't afford to save, but it's unfortunate that we're in this position where we don't have savings and we're having to borrow. It's like, for example, it's like a family going into a new academic session and the husband and wife refuse to save their salaries or their business and proceeds for paying school fees for their children, and they have to go and borrow money to pay school fees.
All right. Calvin, yes, the passion is coming through loud and clear. Okay, let's talk optimism. Okay, let's look at the positive things and what positives can we take away from the candidates, or the candidates, in some cases, the candidates through their proxies. From what you heard in the town hall, is there anyone that we can say, okay, this is somebody who can lead Nigeria?
Well, I like how articulate Rabiu Musa Kwankwaso was. I liked how he highlighted his achievements in education in Kano, how he sent about 3,000 Kano people out of Nigeria for foreign education. It's a well-known fact. It's one of the reasons why he has a very, very loyal base in Kano. And why in the latest ANA polls that was conducted, Kano is actually leading NNPP for the governorship elections, leading all the major parties in Kano State. And he has a very wide margin. I like how Peter Obi talked about his consumption to production philosophy and how he plans to restructure Nigeria along the line of fiscal federalism. I also like how articulate the vice presidential candidate of the PDP was, and how he was able to highlight market-driven growth that the PDP is based of their philosophy. But, as again, I have not seen practical solutions on how they plan to take Nigeria out of the current quagmire it is.
Do you think we're going to see practical solutions the closer we get to 2023? Because I think our presidential candidates only have a history of keeping things very close to their chest.
Well, keeping things right close to the chest is what got us to where we are. You need to be able to show that you understand the problems and you can solve the problems. You can see how when in developed countries they want to have an election, they bring their candidates together and they debate to a standstill. It shows what you're doing and what you're talking about. So you need all the major parties, they have very glossy manifestos, but they are short on details. I'll tell you what, in the 2023 budget that Buhari has committed the next president to, Nigeria has an 11 trillion naira deficit, 2 trillion naira projected revenues. It has to borrow 8.8 trillion naira, except by some miracle, Federal Inland Revenue Service is able to generate twice what it generated, which is going to be practically impossible. It has to borrow $20 billion. How do you borrow $20 billion in this climate? At what coupons? It's going to be borrowing at 17-18% per annum. Imagine a federal government bond.
Kelvin, considering what we know of the economy, the budget, and everything going into 2023, is there any of the presidential candidates, is there any president, even if he was, I don't know, Elon Musk or Bill Gates, I don't know, somebody who would be able to turn Nigeria around quickly?
no one can turn Nigeria around quickly, given the current mess we're in. No one can turn. Anyone who promises a quick turnaround does not have a full grasp of the issues and does not understand what it takes to navigate a country out of the current situation we're in.
Are we going to be able to like the next president? Because some hard decisions have to be taken.
Yes, like fuel subsidy has to be removed, definitely. I hear rumors that by Q1 of 2023, there's a likelihood that Dangote is going to start refining. And if that happens, then most likely PMS subsidy will be removed. And that 4 trillion naira that is paid in under recovery is going to be saved, is going to help the budget. He has to take hard decisions in terms of giving financial autonomy to the educational institutions in Nigeria so that we don't have a repeat of the situation we have. He has to take hard decisions on floating the exchange rate because the difference between the official market and the parallel market doesn't make any sense. I mean, for the first time in history, the pounds crossed over 1,000 naira to a pound. I remember.
We're going to have to talk about that exchange rate. Let's talk about that. But before we do, let me read some of the messages that have come in. And by the way, they have something to say about Peter Obi saving. So this one in from Prince says, Peter Obi left savings, but he forgot to tell us he left over 125 billion obligations. Obiano said this when he assumed power. He did say that Peter Obi had left him with 127 billion naira debt, and it was all in road contracts. So there's that. Lenin says, Kelvin, of course we can save because there is so much waste. If we cut recurrent expenditure, we will have savings that will rescue our debt servicing costs. We need to deleverage and reinvest the savings in growth areas like tech education. And Yinka Bolu says, I'm sorry, but these savings by Peter Obi, as it's claimed, how do we link it to the excess crude oil windfall that was shared among the states, which is the same money that Peter Obi claimed to have saved? And in terms of debt, are we saying Peter Obi didn't leave any debts because Obiano claimed he did? My point is, wow, let's just try and dissect these guys. And the point is, saving are not from IGR, but ECA. Okay, let's move things along now, Kelvin, to that exchange rate that you started talking about, because it has been doing new and better things and breaking records that we did not want it to break. So first of all, we had, well, depending on who you talk to, but let's say that the exchange rate appreciated, the dollar appreciated to 855 naira to the dollar yesterday. That was from an average of 875 naira to the dollar, according to Nairametrics and other media outlets. So what do you think the triggers behind this up, and away behavior of the exchange rates?
So to be honest with you, this is panic buying, but this is panic buying from a misdirected Naira redesign policy, because people are taking flight into the USD and the pounds. And a lot of people who don't see the need to go deposit money in the banks, especially with the new rule of the CBN that says if you have a new account, you can't put in more than 5 million. If you have an existing account, you can't put in more than 50 million naira. You know, they are converting their money to foreign currencies. Simple metric, really, because if they convert the money to foreign currency, when the new notes come in circulation, they go back and they convert it to naira as much as they want to do. The issues of the exchange rate, there are structural issues, and structural issues are there has been a significant drop in the amount of certificate of capital imports registered with NOTAP, an agency of the federal government that the FG receives, the CBN receives from foreign direct investors coming into Nigeria. That's number one. Diaspora remittance, of course, has been appreciating, but not as much as the country needs. NXP proceeds has also dropped. The ROT 200 program CBN set up has been a failure. And the reason it has been a failure is because the difference between the official and the parallel market does not give companies incentive to bring in their FX into Nigeria. They divert it to other countries, or they use it to purchase equipment abroad, and then they import it to Nigeria and they sell to get the street value. And I think the last source of FX is oil receipts that are paid to NNPC by IOCs in joint venture agreement, production sharing contracts. The NNPC then remits to Central Bank of Nigeria. And that has been hampered by payments under recovery through what they call the direct sales, direct purchase agreement, DSDP. So these are the four major sources of FX for CBN. Two has dropped significantly. Three, sorry, NXP proceeds, FDI, CCI, and oil receipts. And the reason why that is, especially for the NXP proceeds and FDIs, which is a mainstay, is because of the difference between their rates, which is the reason why we've been urging the central bank to float the naira. If the rates converge, you're just going to see, you're going to provide guidance for foreign investors to bring in their capital in, because if, for example, I'm bringing $100 million US in, and for example, this is also going to affect investments into tech in Nigeria, into the tech sector in Nigeria. It's going to affect investments into tech, because if venture capital A is investing in startup B and they're having to bring their dollar in and converting it through NOTAP for CCI at 439 or 437, and they have foreign obligations and they have to pay at 857, you can imagine the loss already that they're experiencing. So foreign investors need forward guidance on how they can collapse this window and get maximum value and not be subjected to external risk and shock of devaluation and inflation.
All right, Kelvin, thank you so much for joining me today. This was Kelvin Emmanuel, who's the CEO of Dairy Hills Ltd, and who you can find on Twitter at RealKelvin07.
Thanks for having me.
There's not another zero in front of that 07, just 07. We won't do any James Bond moves here. Kelvin, it was a pleasure. I look forward to seeing you again once more on Business Express. Till then, have a wonderful day.